Lies, hypocrisy, and a secret plot, or the story of how Netflix accidentally revealed the real truth about Henry Cavill's departure from The Witcher, is presented to you today. Furthermore, the truth turned out to be completely different from what we all thought for many years, and it is truly shocking. Forget absolutely everything you heard before. The official version that Henry Cavill left The Witcher supposedly for other projects, recently pushed by the showrunner Lauren Schmidt herself, completely fell apart in an instant. Buried under a single line in an article that Netflix itself published recently, it was revealed that Henry apparently planned to leave The Witcher right after its first disappointing season. And back then, the streamer started looking for his replacement, reaching out, among others, to the younger Hemsworth. Or option number 2, seeing that Henry Cavill wouldn't let them do all the arbitrary things they wanted, the show's creators, with the support of the bosses, decided to plot against Henry, trying to push him out right after season 1. Either way, a very inconvenient truth has surfaced, and Netflix, having immediately spilled the beans, panicked and rushed to correct their mistake. So the other day, Netflix released a large, extensive publication about the Witcher series. It was a carefully planned PR campaign dedicated to, among other things and primarily, the new Geralt, Liam Hemsworth, whom the streamer is trying its best to, so to speak, push to the masses. But it turned into a resounding scandal that exposed the years-long lies of The Witcher showrunner and the company's bosses. And the internet, as we know, forgets nothing. And Netflix's attempt to cover its tracks only confirmed the fans' worst fears. That Cavill, the only one fighting for the true spirit of The Witcher, was systematically forced out of the project from its very beginning. Or he himself wanted to wash his hands of it all, right after the shameful first season, realizing nothing good awaited the series further, but found himself a hostage to the situation. We'll try to figure it all out now. It all started with a massive, glossy article on the official Netflix resource. This article described how Liam Hemsworth trained hard for his new role, how the entire crew welcomed him with open arms, and how a new, more vulnerable, and even funnier Geralt will be presented to us, and so on. In short, a fairly standard PR piece from Netflix's marketers. But among all this flattery, a phrase was tucked away, somehow missed by Netflix editors, which immediately blew up the information space. It stated verbatim, and I quote, "Liam Hemsworth's journey began with a phone call in 2020, or when he was at home in Australia." And just so we're clear, this was, of course, about the actor's journey to the role of the White Wolf. So, the year 2020. Let that date imprint in your mind. Now let's put 2 and 2 together. The first season of The Witcher was released in late 2019, which means that before the debates about what it even was had cooled down, Netflix and the project's showrunner, Lauren Schmidt, had already started looking for a replacement for their lead actor 2 years before Cavill officially announced his departure. At a time when fans, or at least some of them, still believed the project had a great future ahead. Behind-the-scenes intrigues were already in full swing. Again, the question remains, did Henry Cavill immediately want to leave after the first season, realizing what a circus he'd been dragged into, but was obviously bound by a strict contract? Or did the series' creators start plotting against him, initiating the replacement of a key actor who was inconvenient for them, but didn't expect viewers to become so attached to Henry as the White Wolf? Regardless, realizing their catastrophic blunder, Netflix's PR machine immediately rushed to correct the mistake. The line in the article was hastily edited, removing the scandalous year 2020, hoping nobody would notice. But of course, it was too late. Screenshots spread across the web, and the truth, naturally, broke free. And the attempt to hide the information only confirmed its authenticity and forced a re-evaluation of everything Lauren Schmidt had said and, in general, what had been happening around The Witcher in recent years. And the show's runner, in particular, said a whole lot of lies. Recall, for example, her recent interview where she, with a maximally sympathetic expression, said that Cavill's departure was, it turns out, a mutual decision because the actor had plans for other roles, and the series creators didn't want to force him to do something he didn't want. Such touching care, isn't it? Only now this version looks like blatant and cynical lying, because it turns out that plans for other roles, like Cavill's, appeared right after the very first season, when he apparently realized that his vision for Geralt, based on respect for Sapkowski's books, was not needed by any of the writers. Or another option, the series creators themselves realized that with this actor, it would be harder for them to implement all the nonsense they had conceived. and they started looking for his replacement behind Cavill's back right after the debut season, in the form of the less stubborn and more compliant younger Hemsworth. Heck, rumors about creative differences between Henry and the series creators have been circulating for a long time, but now they have gained flesh and blood. Henry Cavill isn't just an actor, he's a real geek, a fan of the Witcher universe. He came to the project with shining eyes, ready for all 7 seasons, but with one condition: the series must respect the source material. But what did he see? Writers who, according to insiders, openly mocked the books and games. He encountered a showrunner whose vision was taking the series further and further away from Sapkowski's dark and complex world towards some kind of teen fantasy with ridiculous plot holes. No wonder viewer dissatisfaction grew with each season. For example, if the first season got 88% positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, the second got 54%, and the third only 19%. Naturally, no one, especially a real fan of The Witcher, could watch this calmly. As for the newly revealed info, this new information completely changes the balance of power. And in the opinion of many, it clearly indicates that Cavill didn't leave. He was, as they say, pushed out. His disagreement, his fight for the canon, became an inconvenient problem for the producers. And instead of listening to the person who understood Sapkowski's work and the character of Geralt, they decided to get rid of him and started preparing a replacement as far back as 2020. Moreover, it's quite possible that for 2 more seasons, Henry Cavill was fulfilling his contract, essentially already on, as they say, enemy territory, and already knowing, or at least suspecting, that they were looking for a successor for him. Or conversely, on his part, he was waiting for when he could finally leave this disgrace and abandon this unbearable circus. Furthermore, how caricatured does the Netflix article praising the new White Wolf actor now look against the backdrop of this scandal? They rapturously tell us that Liam Hemsworth will bring a bit more humor to the new image, and that he, I quote, loves to swear. And we brought back those swear words. Series producer Tomasz Baginski stated that their new Geralt smiles a bit more, and maybe is a bit more emotional. And all this is presented as a revelation, as some kind of fresh, better vision. But in reality, it might just confirm what Cavill was fighting against: the simplification and distortion of a complex, multifaceted character, turning him into a more understandable and flat hero for a mass audience. And by the way, even Lauren Schmidt's flattery that she has never seen a physical form like Liam Hemsworth's now also sounds like a petty jab at Henry Cavill, who put his all into creating, including the physical image of The Witcher, and, in my opinion, even overdid it in that aspect. Although on the other hand, it only emphasizes the perfectionism of the departed actor. And while we ponder and guess whether Geralt himself decided to quit The Witcher after the shameful first season but couldn't, or whether they initially started preparing a replacement for him, not wanting to deal with a rebellious star, just imagine what would have happened if Cavill had actually managed to leave after season 1. Perhaps it would have saved him from participating in increasingly failed sequels, of course, but for the series, it would have been an instant catastrophe. Or not. Cavill's fans are convinced that the entire initial popularity of The Witcher rested precisely on Henry, on his perfect embodiment of the role. And in their opinion, without him, the show would most likely have been cancelled after the 2nd season, not reaching the current disgrace with falling ratings and a sea of dislikes. Although I personally don't think so, and am sure the series would have continued to be filmed with another actor, as in fact ultimately happened. The thing is, now we've learned about the mess that was brewing behind the scenes right after The Witcher's release, and this of course is information that was never supposed to become public. Obviously, Netflix tried to carry out its switcheroo quietly and smoothly, presenting Cavill's departure as his own decision. But now, one accidental remark in an article destroyed their entire years-long construct of lies. Now we know the truth. Henry Cavill didn't just leave. He was forced to abandon a sinking ship that the team of writers and producers was deliberately steering onto the rocks, ignoring the books, the fans, and common sense. And the conspiracy to replace him began almost immediately after the start. Or conversely, Cavill himself immediately decided to ditch this doomed endeavor. But they managed to keep him for 2 more seasons in a row, And the funniest thing is, whether the first or the second statement is true, it's still the loudest and most irrefutable evidence of how much The Witcher's creators despised both the source material and the actor who tried to protect it. The fourth season, coming out on October 30th, will now be viewed even more skeptically, not as a new chapter, but as a monument to hypocrisy and betrayed expectations. Give your opinion in the comments. Also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell. Thanks for watching.